everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube storytelling channel. This is Hua. I'm so happy to have you here with me today. The weather has been in the high 90s and hundreds, so I hope that you are staying safe and I hope that you are staying hydrated. For those of you who have elders and small children, please keep an eye on them if they are outside. Remember to keep a bottle of water with you always. So, this is going to be chapter 6 of Tales of the Consort. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy.
You're sleeping with someone new, and I knew you work for the first time. I hate this weather, but I like the view. It makes me think of new beginnings. Here's to new beginnings. I can't sleep alone, 'cause if I do, I'll think of you. The nights are so long, wondering if you miss me too. I'm losing myself in the city sounds. For a while I'm fine, but as soon as it gets quiet.
Consort Angelina. I would never let them get away with it. I would never let them win. When Queen Leona walked out of my chambers, I heard everything between her and Sullivan. My heart broke, and I felt betrayed like never before. The world I thought I knew was unkind. Worse, the lover I wanted was to be shared by the same woman as the husband who claimed my body. The hate that filled me was deep enough to last many lifetimes. I would never let them get away with it. My sentencing was coming up in 2 days, and I had to figure out what I was going to do with myself. The king would for sure behead me and make an example out of me. Sullivan would never stand behind me, and the queen could not wait to laugh at me. The only person here who would offer me a hand was Consort Summer, the woman I thought held an agenda. I could not find sleep, and it tortured me, leaving me weak and helpless. When the morning sun rose and the lights peeked into my chambers, my heart felt heavy, for I was about to commit a crime against my own fetus. I had no choice but to remove the child and suffer my own wrath. The herbs I had been hiding underneath my pillows called out to me last night. They already knew what I had planned, and when Victoria entered my chambers with a tray of tea, I asked her to bring me a bowl of rose water to cleanse myself. As she walked out, I poured the herbs into the tea and let it simmer. When she returned and set the bowl down, she poured me a cup and brought it to me. I felt the pain before it happened, and as I sipped the tea and felt the warm liquid run down my throat, my eyes filled with tears. My dear child, I have yet to see your eyes, but I must do this to save my life. Forgive me, my child. I will meet you again, and you shall gain the favor to do what you will of me. I finished the tea and asked her to pour me another. When I finished the second cup, I felt my heart begin to beat rapidly, making my breathing ragged and uneven. My lady, are you all right? You look pale, Victoria said. I mumbled something, and I lost my balance. I fell to the ground, my knees hitting the floor, ripping my flesh apart, as I felt pain shot through my lower abdomen like a knife cutting me open. I screamed, and Victoria ran out of the room as a heat wave washed over me. I began shaking, my breath coming out with half groans of pain, and I felt my legs give out. And then I felt the warmth of blood seep from between my legs. Tears slipped down my cheeks as I gasped and cried, knowing what had happened, and I let it take over. I know not what happened, Victoria said as she entered my chambers, with the king beside her. He took one look at me and saw the pool of blood forming in my lower dress. He was still wearing only a sleeping tunic, and the hatred filled me with such force that I shut my eyes. You think by doing this you will save your head? King Helion asked. I know not of what you speak, I whispered. My king, my lady needs a doctor, Victoria said with tears brimming in her eyes. King Helion knelt down beside me and gave me a glare that told me he knew what I had done. I gasped from the pain ripping me apart, and my hands curled around the fabric of my dress. Victoria once again shouted for medical help, but he stood up and turned to her. Let her bleed to death. Perhaps that will repent for what she has done. Leave her. My king, leave her! He yelled. Victoria sobbed and left the room as I pushed myself to sit up, feeling the blood that filled my underpants. He turned back around to watch me, and then he reached for a blanket from the bed, throwing it at me. That child was innocent. It should not have had to pay for your sins with its life. No matter if you have removed it or not, you would still be losing your head. No matter, you will be praying for forgiveness when you meet your own child in the afterlife. He turned and walked out as I reached for the blanket and covered my shaking body. The blood was coming out in sheets, it seemed, as I felt the pain rip me to shreds. The breath of me was taken out as I felt the lump fall out of me. Tears rolled down my cheeks, and I sobbed, feeling the pain and anger for what I had done. I had hoped the king would offer me a few days to heal, but I had assumed wrong, and at the cost of my own child, I would still be facing death.
I gave my heart to a stranger. Father, forgive me for it, but I don't wanna back.
The blood on the floor had not been cleaned well, and I could still smell the stench of it as I laid on the bed, covered in thick sheets and heavy blankets beneath me from the bleeding. Victoria had returned with Consort Summer, who had helped me up and washed me as the servants came to clean up the blood. Within the pile of crimson liquid, I saw a mass of tissue matted with chunks of blood, and my heart broke. It was my baby. Before I had earned eyes and ears, I had cried as Consort Summer tended to me gently, the woman I thought poorly of. Consort Angelina, you need your strength. Here, have some ginger soup. It will help you to rebuild your immune system, she said as she sat next to me. I am a horrible woman. Do not say such words. This was but an accident. It could not have been saved even if the king had tried to do it himself. I smiled. You are but a naive young woman, indeed. Perhaps that is why the king treats you so well. She lowered her eyes and set the bowl of soup down. I am here for the safety of my own self. The king and I are like siblings who have a deep respect for each other. Have you not noticed how he keeps his hands by his side when he nears me? I frowned and watched as the light in her eyes died. You mean to tell me you have not shared his bed? No. Never? Never, she whispered. I reached over and took her hand. How is it that you have been able to hide this from everyone? What purpose does the king keep you here for, if not for children? She removed her hands from me. He keeps me here to protect me. It is my own fault for... She lowered her eyes and remained silent. I knew that look. You fell in love with him. She shot her head up and tears filled her eyes. I did not mean to. But his heart is too kind, and when he speaks to me in such gentle tones, it wakes something deep inside of me. I have never had anyone love me, and he is the first man to see me as someone who is worth something more than just a pleasurable object to defy. I laughed and shook my head. Consort Summer, are you blind? Can you not see that to him you are nothing more than a display item for the world to admire? He will never love you like he loves his queen. To him, you are but a show of alliance to the world. The woman who his heart holds dearly is Queen Leona. The two of us are small specks that live in his world, and he hardly notices whether we live or die. She frowned and then took my hand. What is the meaning of your words? Has he not loved you and shown you a good life? Are the rumors about you true? The babe you lost, was it someone else's and not the king's? Was that why he purposely forced all the doctors to be removed from the palace halls? I lowered my eyes, the hate and pain filling my soul, and I wanted to hit something to satisfy my wrath. I was defeated, and the losses were mine to endure. Consort Summer, you know so little even though you live a life beside the king. A consort as you and I will never see more than this. We will never rise above the queen, yet we cannot sleep with the servants. We are stuck in between where we cannot live or die. We will be forever punished, carrying a brand on our foreheads to the public about who we are and how little we matter. Even a whore has more worth, for a man still fights for her. But you and I are just little dusts to be rid of.
I know you've been hurt, I know that you're trying. The boss is complaining, your phone's always ringing. Outside there's the cold wind, inside the monotony. Baby, we need an exit from this. Honey, we need that sweet release. I know it will feel.
The night was long and filled with pain and regret. Although I did not even feel movement yet, my womb felt empty now. I felt as if my body had been robbed, and yet I was a thief who did the stealing. My hands were covered in blood, blood of the innocent life from my own child. The king had not visited since he left earlier in the day, and the queen had come twice, but I turned her away. I was lying in bed, still bleeding and cramping every other hour. Victoria had given me some warm water to help me shed the blood clots from my body. But once she had left me alone, I felt the emptiness fill me with a dread I could not let go. The silence in the room made the hurt in me pound and echo, as if to make me suffer more than I needed. I began to cry again, and I muffled my sobs by covering my face. I did not hear him come in, but when I heard Sullivan's voice, I jerked away and kept my face hidden from him. You should be whipped and fed to the wolves for what you did, he whispered. Did you not care about my feelings? I finally turned to look at him, and I laughed. Your feelings. The feelings you hide for the queen, or the feelings you pretend to give me? I saw his face pale. I heard everything you and the queen talked about last night. You cannot stand there and pretend to be so holy when you have tainted hands in loving someone who you cannot have. So you decided to murder our baby? Sullivan asked through clenched teeth. I did it to save myself. I thought perhaps the king would allow me to grieve and heal. Sullivan laughed and ran his hands through his hair, tugging at the ends, almost ripping his own strands out. You are a brainless dimwit. For the sake of your own pity, you took my child's life without permission and murdered him. How could you call yourself a mother? I did not answer him as I lowered my gaze. He was right. I was a dimwit. For loving him and for giving him my all. The exhaustion made me lose my fight, and I let out a breath of defeat. I am tired, my lord. I am tired of fighting for a love that would not be given wholeheartedly to me. I am tired of living inside these walls. I wanted you for myself, and now I learn that I must share you with the queen. You desire her in ways I wanted to be desired. She conquers your mind and heart, winning all the battles I have yet to even find a small bit of glory in. How am I supposed to find some sort of peace with her? I have lost to her over and over again. He knelt down and reached out to touch my hand gently. My lady, I confess my sins to you of holding impure thoughts of the queen in my mind. But tonight your mistake of taking the child I gave to you without my permission has opened my eyes about how I see you. I cannot return to how I saw you as before. I cannot forgive you. I felt the tears roll down my cheeks. I have loved only you, my lord. You left me to die, and I had no way out. It was my only option. Shaking his head, he replied, No. You had many options, my lady, yet you chose the one to make me hate you. I forced a weak smile and watched as he moved away from me. His eyes held a deep emotion of hate that burned me, and I could not look at him. I lowered my gaze, finding my hands to be old and worn out, as I listened to the sound of my breathing. He stood there, silent, and watched me for several moments before he turned to leave. My lord, I said as he stopped to listen, the many moments you and I have cherished together will forever be branded into my heart. You have been the only man I ever loved, truly loved. Even the king does not hold a flame to you. But the look you give me today is beyond something I can endure. I do not know how I can bring myself to look at you without feeling the guilt of what I have done." He turned to glance at me. "Your own hand ended the life we've created together. The moment I walk out of this door is the moment I will have forgotten everything of you." I felt the hot tears run down my cheeks and I sobbed. "My lord, will you not give me a chance?" "Did you ever give my child a chance?" I was silent at his question. "Your head will be held for public viewing for having an affair with a servant. But for me, I will look at it as taking the life of my child." He walked out of my chambers, and I let the sob echo from my lips. What had I done? I was selfish, and I was wrong. I would die nonetheless.
You're sleeping with someone new, and I'm in New York for the first time. I hate this way.
They say that when you are meeting your death, your life replays before you. As I was marched across the street to the gallows, where a crowd had gathered near the stage for the public beheading of me, I felt as if the sun felt pity for me, so it shined on me. Besides the warmth of it, nothing else wanted anything to do with me. The wind did not even utter a breath as I made my way to the stage. The executioner was waiting for me, a black mask over his face as he held his sword. Its edges were black, and I wondered how many heads it had taken off. In the street were many villagers, men and women, even children, who had gathered to watch. The king and queen were nowhere in sight, but I caught Consort Summer with Lily in a carriage across from the crowd, watching. At least I would die with someone I know viewing my last breath. Sullivan was not present, although I did not expect him to be. I was placed on my knees and my gown torn from my shoulders down. The crowd began throwing food in my face, and I lowered my gaze. "Consort Angelina, for the crime of carrying a child not of the king's blood, and for an affair against the king, you are sentenced to death. May God have mercy on your soul," the executioner said. I heard the swung of the blade, and the sharpness of it against my flesh left me in the dark for an eternity. Thank you, everybody. Chapter 7 will be uploaded shortly.